It's 6 o'clock. I am Chair Sean Callaghy. I will first call roll. We have Vice Chair Barry Berkman present and Member Phil Mooney present. And so with that, we have a quorum. This is a hybrid meeting, as folks may realize, and viewers are welcome to watch. So for those of you on Zoom, welcome. I know we received some comments indicating people would be watching. Public comments are accepted when sent via email to trafficeng@cityofsanrafael.org. And as long as received before 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting or in person at the meeting. And I know we did receive several comments covering, I believe, all of the agenda items and then some. So thank you to the members of the public who did that. If you're providing public comments in person, we are now to align with City Council policy, allowing for up to 10 minutes of time at the beginning of the meeting for public comment. There is still a 2-minute per speaker limit. So we will go ahead. Wish to provide comment in the public expression forum, and I'll remind you that it's supposed to be for items that are not on the agenda, because of course we'll discuss those in due course.
I have one thing, which is this is just is the public expression 10 minutes moved to the front from what was at the end, or is there still one at the end?
There's still time at the end. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That was my public expression.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is intended to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's intended to align with City Council policy, and also some people who come aren't able to stay till the end. So
sure, yeah, that's happened to me.
An opportunity to comment.
Thank you.
Sure. All right.
I'll abstain till the end. Thank you.
All right. So our first order of business then would be to approve the meeting minutes. Members, any questions on the minutes from our February 11th, 2026 meeting? Okay. And any public comment on the meeting minutes? Okay.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Hearing none, we have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor? The meeting minutes are approved. All right. So let's see. We do not have special presentations on the agenda, and so that takes us to other agenda items. I know we have 5 items on the agenda each. And as I mentioned, each of them received some number of comments. So let's go ahead and start with those. I guess I would encourage let's try and keep the presentation portion tight, just because I expect there'll be a lot to cover and plenty of discussion.
Yep, absolutely. So hi, I'm Gray Milgard. I'm a senior civil with the Department of Public Works. I'm here to present the first 2 topics. The very first being the pavement management program. So we were here a couple months ago to talk about the 3-year plan. This is now the first year of that plan. And then specifically some items, Nova Albion and then First Street have some kind of specific striping improvements that we want to discuss. So here's pavement program, PMP year 1. So primarily in the Terra Linda area with an accelerated slurry and a micro. It includes the Safe Pathways to School along Nova Albion. This is a grant that the city received. And then it also includes First Street, E to D, which is a counterflow bike lane, which was in the 2018 citywide bike and ped plan. So we'll go into more detail. So Safe Pathways to School, this is Nova Albion. So this is between Montecillo Road and Esmeyer Drive along Nova Albion Way, so right by the Kaiser. Estimated construction costs is right around 109. Safe Pathways is providing $100,000 of that. City is matching local funds of $9,000 for construction. So these are our 65% design drawings from our consultant. So Montecillo is over here on the right, Kaiser's up on the northern side of the page, and I have another slide for that. So connecting 2-way bike track, removing the parking along the northern edge, enhanced striping for the school, ladder crossings, redoing stop sign markings, all of that kind of stuff. And then flipping to the other side. So again, keeping with the green conflict markings as we go past the court. And then eventually on the far left, as we catch up to Esmeyer, connecting to the existing 2-way cycle that then connects all the way to the high school. So this is one portion of that gap that we're closing with the Safe Pathways to School route. And then First Street between D and E. So this is C14. Like I said, this was in the Bike and Ped Plan 2018 update. So this is looking to reverse vehicle traffic from the westbound direction to the eastbound direction towards D Street, and then adding a counter flow bike lane to head back towards E Street. So that's what this guy looks like. So you'll see over on the right. Yeah, maybe this works better. So closing the left turn lane, making it a bike only left turn lane to then come into the counterflow, still maintaining the stop, left, right, straight capabilities, and then coming back towards East Street, having the bike stop for that connection back to East Street.
Sorry, could you explain what's happening on D Street there too? There's some new striping.
Yeah, so D Street, so there's an existing left turn lane because right now D Street is east to west.
Okay.
So that left turn lane is closing. We're striping it out and then keeping just a little pocket here for the bikes to make that left turn against traffic on D Street, having their own space to sit. But otherwise, D Street will continue to be a through and a right turn for vehicle traffic only. So removing that left. Okay. That is it. Happy to take questions. I went through that.
I appreciate that. All right, well, yeah, so first, members, questions of staff.
I don't have any questions. No.
Yeah, no questions from me on that. Thank you. So yeah, it's great. We'll open it for public comment.
Can you tell me where's the left turn on D that you're eliminating? Left turn into what?
Left turn from D Street onto First Street. That's existing.
Street.
Currently has time limitations for no left turn on evening hours.
Because I think you don't come, that's the way we come.
We don't know,
Yeah.
no, First Street,
What-
there's no way to get from First Street to our neighborhood.
Where do we turn on from D to go to Shaver?
I mean, it's first when it's within the hours, but there's a street before First that you can turn on as well. It's only one block ahead.
I'd have to see where that is. I'm not sure, but I know that I do personally take some route. If
Yeah.
I come over Wolf Grade, I do go back around there. I think down First.
Sorry to, just like an aside, but previously before D Street was two ways, that was a really effective way to go, but now you can just go straight all the way to Third Street on D and make the left turn on Second and get to our neighborhood. So it's a cut around. I use it as well sometimes when the stoplights are really packed, but yeah, there's other routes.
I think that's the way I usually go, but.
Okay,
It's not a big deal. Sorry.
That's all right, yeah, and any other public comment or clarification? Yes, okay, well then, we'll close public comment. I think you addressed the one question.
Yeah, so the one question received from the public is the left turn off of D towards, but this is just the segment in between D and E Street that we're impacting.
Right. And what's the timeline for doing this?
This will be part of the year one slurry, so this will be summer, August
Of this year?
of this year, correct?
I have one quick question. Are you guys doing good community outreach to the neighbors that live on that road?
Yes.
Yeah.
And is this
Has
map
that
available?
been done so far?
Not yet.
Oh.
Wanted to get public comment
Yeah,
from you
great.
guys first.
Is this gonna be available on site? Because this map wasn't available as part of the agenda. will that be available to look at?
This BPAC presentation is available online. Yes, after the meeting.
Okay. Well, any further discussion from the committee?
I've been waiting for these for a long time. This also, we should note that we did have a comment on the
Yeah.
Nova Albion section, and it appears that this is exactly what the person writing was hoping to see. That's nice.
Well, then, do we have
Oh, actually, I did have one question about the Nova Albion one, because there's so this was the next page. Oh, yeah. So where bicyclists have to cross diagonally across the intersection, is there some kind of signage or something indicating to drivers to expect that movement?
I don't think it's shown on this plan. Are you like here for stop for the counter?
Yeah.
I'll talk to our designer. I think this is just a striping plan. I'm not sure signage is included, but I'll ask them.
Okay, and unless you apply the green striping on the diagonal as well, I don't know if that's an appropriate way to use that.
I will talk to them and see. Yeah, absolutely.
At least on the bike symbol, we can put it, which is white, we can put it on
The
green.
greenback Cheryl.
Again, this is they mentioned 65%, so yeah. No comments.
I thought I remembered hearing something. I have to check. I know the recently updated MUTCD. I thought there was some changes to the use of I don't know if it was greenback sharrows are not permitted anymore, or there was something that was different that
Shadows are not
surprised me.
permitted on streets with more than 30 miles per hour. There's a lot of change.
Yeah, I know.
I think the greenback component, so this would be considered conflict marking within the intersection, which
Right.
is still allowable, but I think there's a
But maybe the
conversation.
sharrow, maybe it's not. Or,
Yeah, I would
I don't
have
know.
it deferred.
yeah.
Could you go back to the first and D? So where the bike lane, the contraflow bike lane is hitting East Street. Where are you hoping to route bikes? I just see that as you're opening up that turning radius, which I think makes people that would be turning on to First Street would encourage them to go faster around that corner.
So coming southbound.
Well,
on
why
this
does it open up so much there at the end?
I think
What's the
that design is just following the existing curvature of the roadway, what's existing. So we can be interested if specifically looking at kind of straightening that bike lane out to kind of prevent that cutoff. Is that what you're like? If kind of this triangle space here.
like if that just went straight.
I think it's just the curving of the road it's matching.
And then another addition, that section of First Street in the eastbound direction is also a bike lane, also a bike route.
Mhm.
Can it get some sharrows on the road there? They're not shown.
I think there are some existing ones from when we did the paving a year ago. And they might just not be shown because they're existing on this. This is new striping, but can confirm if we need to add them in the traffic vehicle traffic.
Confirm.
Yeah.
wouldn't they be shown going the other way because it's
So they would be with traffic headed in the eastbound direction.
right? So, but this is currently a westbound street, right?
Yes, you are correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they would need to be reversed.
So we would,
Okay.
so we would need some sharrows there. Okay. I'm excited about this one.
Yeah.
This is
I mean,
great.
To Phil's first comment, I think the curvature for cyclists going westbound would probably be mostly welcome because I can imagine most people are then going to get onto the track. And I guess that you might want something to discourage a real people taking the turn real hot.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there would be some provision for putting something in place there, like
My concern now is if someone was driving on Third Street and trying to get up and over Wolfgrade, that they would see traffic backed up and then just, rip around on E, rip down on First, rip down to, they're sort of like the opposite of what people do now. But to slow that turning movement down, I think it's important to make people turn slowly from East Street onto First Street. Because I could see it used like that.
First Street is extremely narrow.
It is very narrow,
It's
yeah.
extremely narrow.
That's why,
Yeah.
that's even why
Yeah.
it's more important to slow down because
Sure.
there's gonna be a bike right in your
Yeah,
way.
coming the other direction, yeah.
And realistically, if you're riding your bike to that intersection, you just go straight, right? Like if you're gonna go straight down First Street, which is our bikeway to the new
Yeah,
connection.
you have to continue.
It's
It
not like
doesn't-
you'd like go right and then, they're gonna
Is the
go.
bike lane aimed on, not E, but the one before?
Yeah, the
One,
one
okay.
Shaver.
Yeah, that's Shaver, thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, any other questions or comments on item 2A? We have a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
All right, I'll second. All in favor? All right, great. Let's now proceed to 2B.
It's me again.
Great.
Okay, so keeping in a similar vein, so the Point San Pedro slurry project and then also pedestrian spec build enhancements. So this is a joint project with the County of Marin. The limits we're looking at from just west of the high school all the way down to Biscayne Drive. So this Point San Pedro jumps in and out of Marin city jurisdiction like 6 different times. Makes most sense to work with the county. The work includes the type 2 slurry seal, slightly different than what the city typically applies. It's not an accelerated cure, it's a more kind of traditional. Crack sealing and dig out localized repairs. Specifically talking about striping and sign enhancements, so specifically traffic calming. So looking to change the existing 12-foot wide lanes down to 11 feet wide. Wider lanes are typically correlated with faster speeds, so looking for some reduction there. This is just an example of 11-foot lanes. This is in Roland Boulevard in Novato. Pretty typical, not anything, completely out of the ordinary. And then some enhanced bicycle markings. So the existing bike lane, providing a buffer where possible. It ranges from 2 to 3 feet, I think, currently on the 65% drawings. Adding share the road, appropriate signage the past 3 feet minimum. Conflict markings when we're going past intersections, turn lanes, and then looking at the possible conversion of existing parking that is being underutilized to a bike lane. This is a 2-foot striped buffer, 5-foot bike lane with an 11-foot lane vehicles next to it. So come back to that for just a second. We're also doing a quick build project with some TDA grant funds, transportation. Thank you, TDA. So this is at Peacock, Knight, and Riviera. So we're doing some rubber curb extensions, some RRFB rectangular rapid flashing beacons, some green biking striping, and some additional signage. So wanted to kind of flash these up. So this first one is Knight Drive, Point San Pedro. So rubber curbs to help align the existing curb ramps, enhanced striping for pedestrians, and then the rectangular rapid flashing beacons on the north, median, and south. So these are just the ones that, flash when the button's pressed, turn off when the button's no longer pressed. Bike lane conflict markings, the green, back when we're going through the intersections. Similar Peacock Drive, kind of similar treatments. All these kind of align in the same vein of what we're trying to do. Slow speeds, draw attention to pedestrians who are making the crossings. Also bringing back some of those shark teeth yield crossings to help warn drivers. And then Riviera, similar type treatments. The green, these lanes are narrowed from 12 to 11. And these are all 65% drawings as well. So looking for some feedback from all of you.
May I ask you a question just specifically about those, or do you want to get where it's all done?
This is my last slide, so
Okay,
we'll
great.
get to it. So this is from our parking study. It was done by Iteris, and what we're showing is just the limits. So they went from Embarcadero down to Bayside Park. The reason we didn't go farther is because there is already an existing bike lane past Bayside Park. And so the green is where we have an existing class 2 bike lane. The yellow is where there is parking allowed and no visible bike facilities. And then the red is where we just have bike sharrows, so a share the road situation. The purple is what is being proposed between the city and the county to transition to a class 2 bike lane. So the removal of the parking, adding the lane. And so in the westbound direction, we would have a complete, from Bayside all the way down to Embarcadero, a full solid bike lane. And then in the eastbound direction, As currently proposed, the bike lane would pick up right where my cursor is here, continue, break this gap up between C and this other road, I can't remember, and then just past the school, continuing all the way until we get towards the curve. So we are still exploring a couple other options. There are some underutilized private lots that are along this roadway. If those could be transformed into public parking to get more cars off the road and therefore lessen impacts. And then also working with the school district to limit parking during drop-off pickup times. Because I know there's some, ongoing conversations about parking specifically for parents around the school. That is my last slide. So yes, happy to answer any questions or comments.
Can I just start on this slide?
Mhm.
It's between Summit and C.
Yes.
And sorry, what did you say that would?
Yeah, so anything that has this really hard to see purple is what we are proposing to remove parking and transform to a bike lane.
Got it. So that would be a continuous bike lane then
Yeah,
as you
so-
go past Marine Yacht
Yeah,
Club.
so from here, the
up and over
green,
the
green, this would be turned into a park or a bike lane, green, and then it would stop while we're working with the school district, and then it would pick up again until you get to this corner, and then it would stop again. So there's still some gaps in the eastbound direction that we're
Yeah.
kind of evaluating, but westbound it would be a straight shot.
I think you alluded to this, were studies done of how much the parking is utilized currently?
Yes, I did a parking study. That's what this map came from.
Okay.
So they were looking at, they did 7 days accounts, AM and PM, to kind
Yeah.
of identify the areas that parking was unused completely or underutilized that could be removed.
And what do you think the process for? So people
Yeah.
can be going fast.
In process in terms of,
How to resolve if there can be a continuous bike lane? Because the bike lane ending for whatever that is, 100, 200 feet is less than optimal.
School drop-off zone. is the
Yeah.
problem there.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's the conversation we need to have with the school on
Yeah.
where your parents stopping to drop their kids off and is there an alternative
Yeah.
out of the public right away.
Right. Go ahead.
Thanks. Great, love you're doing this. Couple little concerning things. At some point, you mentioned a 2-foot wide bike lane. I thought you said bike lanes would be 2 to
Buffer.
a 2-foot buffer.
Yes.
A full width bike lane.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Is there,
No, you have to just,
Excellent.
yeah, there was something in one of the comments.
2 feet seems like a very small bike lane, but buffer is great.
just for unicycles.
The idea of having a bike lane, losing the bike lane, having the bike lane,
Yeah.
that is difficult, as we all know. The place that you don't have a bike, there's the section in front of the school, but
Mhm.
then this part coming up to Bayside Park right there
Mhm.
is maybe what I would say is like the most important section to have a bike lane because that's uphill in that direction. And so the speeds are most different than the vehicles. And so to me, that's a little concerning to have that gap when I would say like of all places, that's like maybe most important. Like I'd rather have you take it away on the descent towards the school in that direction. And then as it comes there, so what are the constraints that make you not able to put a bike lane there?
I think primarily it's available parking for folks who are actually on Point San Pedro, not having access to driveways, garages. We haven't had the community conversation with specific individuals in that section at this point. And so I think preliminary first hack at it, what's the general takeaway from the community on this is kind of where we landed. The bike lane jumping in and out is kind of the existing condition already. And so limiting that as much as we can, we got 1, 2, 3 sections of roadway kind of impacted, but trying to figure out what the community specifically for those folks parking in front of their houses, what that looks like.
And I assume it's the same situation at the end there when you're starting to get towards busy San Rafael High areas.
Yes, yeah, a lot of impacted parking. lots of businesses right there that have parking along that. But that second bullet point up here is, exploring underutilized private lots. So this Lowry Yacht Club, seems like they have space in their lot, talking to them, seeing what the correlation is between who's parking there, who's parking on the street.
For the segment by Bayside, I mean, I see on the westbound segment, so on the north side of the road, that is shown as it will connect, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know part of the challenge there is also that it's narrowed and there's sort of a terraced thing happening on the road there. Do you think that's going to be an impediment for the eastbound direction?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think with the existence of parking lane is already there, that kind of gives us the flexibility to build in a bike lane. You're right that the road split. The road has an elevation difference in it. And so westbound, there's a lot less parking impact. And so it's a lot easier to kind of make that straight connection all the way through versus eastbound. You have properties affronting the roadway, additional considerations.
And just to clarify, the narrowing of the lanes will be throughout?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. From here all the way down to Biscayne, not just this section. It will be the whole stretch.
And will this coincide with changes in the speed limits that I know have come up?
Ongoing conversation, I think.
We were moving forward, but due to the changes in MUTCD, so we have to check some of the stuff. We are going to council in June.
Okay.
I guess you redo speed surveys after narrowing the lanes. So I imagine that if you get the intended speed reduction, then you want to see.
If currently what we had in mind doesn't fly with new MUTCD, that's another option. To wait for this for a year and do another survey. So it was an option.
I'm still concerned about this area towards Bayside Park, and I'm trying to jog my memory. A few years ago, there was a project proposed when they were redoing Bayside Park to add bike lanes that was going through and sort of got pulled at the last minute. But I believe that project had drawn alternatives for a way to continue that bike lane. Do you remember this?
I do.
Am I correct? Is this the right spot?
Yes, it is. That's where the blind turn is. That's going left before Bayside Park when you're in the eastbound direction.
Yeah, because I'm almost positive I've seen drawings of a bike lane in this, and then in the discussion with that was talking about the volume of traffic is like much lower than what is needed for 2 lanes in both directions, and it could easily accommodate that lane. This must have been like 3 or 4 or 5 years ago.
2022, June of 2022.
Years ago. Look at that.
That's impressive.
And Mayor Beth Bushy
You might have an expert on this.
Mayor Beth Bushy was the city councilwoman who proposed the alternatives to the county, who did not tell the city. At the time, they weren't communicating. Now they are, which is good.
So what I would encourage is I think all of us here think that is an important segment, like maybe the most important segment when you're uphill in terms of safety, because that's where it gets steep. And I know there is an option that was drawn that had bike lanes as a possibility there, and I would love that to be revisited.
Sure.
Evidently, we could look till June 2022 and learn all about it.
And breathing,
Thank you
holding
for
my
that.
breath since then.
Thank you for that. I want to look that up.
Change the lane configurations only to narrow them.
Correct.
Is that a possibility to have that conversation about? Because to Phil's point, the traffic does drop off significantly by the time you get there.
I think the intention of the slurry project is first and foremost a slurry project, and we're taking the opportunity to kind of pick up some of these low-hanging fruit that we have. I think a lane reduction is a bigger conversation that needs to happen.
The dropping the lane.
It would be the section basically past you know, a little ways past Loch Lomond Marina and through to,
From Andy's to Riviera?
This was also like a BCDC thing, because this is Bay Trail too. And so it's a discontinuous gap in Bay Trail right there, which was.
Well,
I wish I had time to look up the.
Kind of thing to take the advantage of slurry and low hanging fruits and do it. But if anything requires more outreach, communities, traffic study, they're not ready for that. So we will talk with them.
Yeah, I mean, with there's like the median there, and then it goes from the city to the county. It just sounds like there's a lot of pieces that would need to get addressed. Or, I mean, maybe a lane reduction is warranted based on volumes. But yeah, much bigger project.
any other questions of the members for the staff? Okay.
And we'll see you're making progress in that direction.
Yeah.
If we're not only there.
They did we ran there was a pilot on this too,
Wow.
on a bike path right here.
Okay, well, maybe we'll come back to that in the discussion piece. Let me open it up for public comment. And if we're gonna have several comments, it's usually better for each person to speak and then later for staff to address all those comments at once. So yeah, go ahead.
Joe Mulligan, the safety director from the Lorraine Cyclists. And I ride on that whole corridor, the Point San Pedro corridor, 4 times a week. So I'm very intimate with that whole corridor. So the proposed striping and signage enhancements are helpful, and the traffic calming measures are much appreciated, but they still leave cyclists at risk of suffering killings and serious injuries, because under the current restriping proposal, the 2 lanes on Point San Pedro Road would each be reduced by only 1 foot, leaving only 2 feet for bikes where there are parked cars in the path of cyclists. And the legal bike lanes, I think they need a minimum of 4 to 6 feet to be a legal bike lane. And I'm talking about just the spots where there are parked cars. I understand there's a 2-foot buffer, but where there's not, there's only 2 feet between the edge line and the parked cars under the spots where you're still not able to remove the parking. So what happens is that leaves cyclists with 2 dangerous scenarios to choose from. Either they stay to the right of the new edge line and then they're stuck in the door zone of cars that are parked, risking being T-boned by a car door, which is a high KSI risk, or cyclists go to the left of the proposed edge line, cars don't expect it, and the cyclists risk getting hit by cars, or yikes, gravel trucks, which is a higher KSI risk. So I built a petition for a continuous bike lane on Point San Pedro Road. I gathered 450 signatures, and I can show you the signatures. I have a printout of that. I also have a printout of comments from testimonials of people about how dangerous it is where the parked cars are. And so a lot of parents won't even let their children bike to school near Point San Pedro if they're going to Glenwood Elementary or San Pedro Middle School due to the dangers. But right now, as of today, I see a dozen students e-biking to San Rafael High at 30 miles an hour on a daily basis, risking getting hit along Point San Pedro, going on a westbound direction.
Okay, well, thank you. I think that's been about 2 minutes, so I want to make sure we give enough time for everyone in our other agenda items. Your written materials, I believe we can receive them into the record.
Okay.
So please, and I know we also received some written comments with some similar sentiments. So
If anybody wants to see the list there, I've got the petitions and the
Very good.
comments as well. There's 3 copies of the comments.
450 signatures.
Wow, yeah, well done, Joe. Okay, any other public comments or questions on this portion of the presentation?
When it goes to us, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask about my intersections too.
Okay.
You're talking about the road, then the other part of the intersection, I did have a couple questions on that.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and close the public comments, and then we have, any response to the comment itself. I don't know if there was a question in particular.
Yeah, I didn't hear a specific question.
Okay.
Materials received.
Yeah.
And recorded.
Can I weigh in for a second, Chair? Sorry, I'm speaking from virtual.
Right beyond.
What's that?
Can I add some more context to the discussion that was happening, since I was around back when the conversation was happening back in 2022?
Okay, sure, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, there was a project that the county had where they were gonna close the travel lane between Loch Lomond and Bayside Park. And instead they were gonna have a parking lane and a buffered bike lane. So the travel lane would be down to one lane going eastbound. There was this, it was gonna be a pilot project. The city was, working with the county on it, and there was several outreach meetings, and there was a large group of people, pretty much the entire Poison Pedro Road Coalition, minus probably Joe, that was against the project. And there was so much opposition that the city decided that we needed to stop and continue this at another time. So the county found another solution to the issues that they were having at the park itself. So they decided not to do the pilot project. The conversation's not over, but there is still that large opposition. I understand we do have, like you said, over 400 signatures of people who want the bike school facility. So we did do a parking study, as Gray mentioned. The conversation's not over. Unfortunately, that section is in the county, so it is going to take some discussions with them further. The parking study did show that, for the most part, people could potentially park somewhere else. It'd be difficult if anybody had any guess there. But again, the conversation is not over. As Gray mentioned, the number one goal of this project is we need to slurry the road. The maintenance of the road has to happen, and we can't hold up the project, which is why these low-hanging fruit are happening. But the city wants to see a continuous bike lane here, at least city staff does. And so we're going to continue to work on it, as Gray mentioned, to try to push the limits on this. I think we already kind of pushed the county in some aspects on getting some more of these purple areas, because we're confident that people can find other places to park, and we can try to have a continuous bike lane or get closer and closer to that point.
Thank you, April. Okay, any further commentary or feedback from that?
Yeah, can we go to the intersections also? We talked about the road, but we started with the Knight and Riviera. As I was looking at, you showed three of them. The middle one, it looked like you sort of squared off the corners, the turn corners. So could you go to one other one?
So this is night. This is first,
Okay.
second, and third.
So go to that second one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that second one,
Up
like,
here.
what's drawn in like one up in that top left corner? Like what are those ones?
It's,
And why don't you have those on the other drawings?
they are in other places, so they're here.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are the 6-inch rubber curbs, black with the yellow striping. So that's just to help channel cars. So specifically in this case,
Yes.
cars can't cut this corner.
Yes.
They have to come out and make the right turn up Peacock.
And same with the Peacock
Where are
on the
you
Point San
pointing?
Pedro Road.
Same, yes. So coming south on
Yeah.
Peacock Drive, you can't kind of cut
So
the corner.
I
you have to
like
come out.
I like that feature. It appears to be missing on the other two. Missing there on Night.
Oh, in this corner here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's here, but it's not here. Okay.
So to me, it seems like that would be an important one on Night also.
Sure.
It's the same exact situation as Peacock. And that is when people ride bikes, that is a common problem, that like a car coming down Night and Peacock, all these roads, like they start driving into the road before they actually stop. And then I think that final one was the same. That one is also missing that same thing. And I would like to see that.
Sure.
Do you think it's reasonable that'll be added in, or is there a reason it's missing?
65% drawings, whatever the decision was, I'll talk to the designer GHD and say, was there a reason behind it's on this side, it's not on this side? Yep.
And will we see these again before they're done? I know it has to go quick for the.
It does have to go quick. It's not going to be represented to BPAC. It will go to city council.
Oh,
So that would be a presentation opportunity.
thank you. Okay.
Remember, yeah, good.
Any other questions, comments?
Me, Barry?
No, I'm glad to see the quick build style stuff happening. That's a
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
approach, and hopefully be able to do a lot more limited resources.
Agree. I know we always strive for the ideal, but this is pretty good. All right, do we have a motion to accept the report?
So moved.
Okay. Second. Okay, all in favor? All right. Great. So that takes us now to agenda item C, traffic calming policy.
This is not me.
All right.
Good evening, Said traffic draft traffic calming program policy. So the goal of this program is to address traffic-related concerns such as excessive speeding on residential neighborhood street, and also effectively manage traffic-related concerns considering benefits and cost of traffic calming measures. So this is kind of a detail, a lot of work, numbers, percentage. So if you kind of do the question at the end, or you can interrupt me, but generally it's probably answered something. But so the principal guideline is traffic control plan process only applies for neighborhood residential streets. And some of the traffic calming will impact on-street causes necessary. The other issue is the emergency vehicle access that has to be maintained. And a request for traffic calming tools will be evaluated on first come, first served basis. In general, traffic calming tools need a simple majority, 50% plus one approval of the resident and property owners. Just on a side note, sometimes we get requests from a resident or a couple of residents, but since this process involves objective measure survey, takes time, we need to hear from more than one resident to see that this is a community concern, not individual. One of the other thing is, so it requires simple majority, 50% plus one. Also stop signs, those are traffic and signals, those are or yield, and those are traffic control, traffic, and it's not, which assigns right of it, it's not part of traffic calming. So generally what the traffic calming starts with an inquiry by a residents or a group of residents, and they can apply to the city traffic engineer. The best way to communicate with city is through see-click fix. Also, traffic calming can be initiated by Department of Public Works. So what we are discussing here is not just reaction or reactive from residents. We are also looking at proactive. So if you have a project, just like we just discussed points in Pedro, and there are some, although it's not a residential street, but there's some traffic safety measures there. So it can be initiated by Public Works, or sometimes it could be initiated by other committees or council members. We look at those, but generally we want to follow the steps that we are describing here to make sure we do the objective assessment of it. And also Safe Route to School program, or also corridors that are residential street, and that's included in local roadway safety plan that we know there has are a collision or history of collisions. So the traffic engineer will determine whether concerns fall within the scope of the policy, including eligibility of the streets. And a side note on this, that streets on the hill, which is the hillside, they're very narrow. We have parking program. It generally doesn't qualify as residential street.
Can you speak a little louder?
Sure.
Okay.
So the type of street is important. Generally, a residential street is, for example, it's a two-lane street with sidewalks, and maybe parking is present or maybe not present. So some of these quick fix for traffic calming can be resolved by sign, striping, channelizer, or combination. And if we can do that, we will provide the applicant the result of it. Currently, that's what we do really is since I came, we haven't really installed a real traffic calming tool, but we have addressed their concern by signage and channelizers. And these are that doesn't really require, because it's a safety issue and we understand, and it doesn't impact a lot of people. So it doesn't require really the whole community. If they have a complaint and we see the complaint, it can be resolved quickly. That's what we do. That's what we're doing currently. So if the city engineer, traffic engineer determines that the traffic calming process is appropriate, then the Public Works Department will begin sending sample petition to the applicant, either by mail or email. We have developed a sample application, so petition, so they don't have to really create one. So again, if traffic calming cannot be resolved by adding signs, striping, channelizer, then petition must be signed by simple majority. So if the street, couple of blocks that they're applying is obviously, you want to hear more than half of them. Really, that's their concern. So once they sign the petition by 50% plus one, we'll schedule a speed and volume survey by a vendor for a full week, including weekend, 7 days, to see if the street qualified for traffic calming. The same process applies if we initiate it internally. You have to do a survey and see what the speeds are for 7 days, including nights. So some of these slides have one of the traffic calming program that we showed for intersection was the creating refuge island and also RRFB, which is rectangular rapid flashing beacon, but activate by pressing a button. So once residential street qualify for traffic control plan by signature petition, and we do the survey, and here is kind of important points, what speed they qualify. And to be flexible, we have created different criteria for different speed. So in general, if 85 percentile of the speed, that means 85% of the cars drive under that speed and 15% above it. If it's 7 miles per hour of the posted speed, say for 25 miles per hour posted, the 85% will be 32 miles. Only for 4 hours of any day of the week, then they qualify. So that means 7 miles per hour. But for if 85% is over 5 miles of posted speed, so it will be 30 miles for 6 hours any day, then they also qualify. Or 85% is at or above 30 miles per hour, which is over 5 miles posted speed for 2 hours of a day. So that also qualifies for but this is really the low bar. This is for street that's in front of the schools, community centers, and seniors. So we have that first one, which is in general, but it's for 4 hours. And then the second one is more reduced, 5 miles per hour over post, but it's for longer time, 6 hours. And then also 5 miles per hour for only 2 hours. It could be AM peak or PM peak, 2 hours, and it's in front of school or community center or park. So that's the reason these criteria are set is if you make it too harsh, most of the street won't qualify. If you make it too soft and easy, then you will have in every street, every residential street, you have a traffic calming. So these are based on experience of other cities. I've worked for city of Mountain View. We had a manual. City of Santa Clara, city of Sunnyvale, city of San Bruno. They all have some sort of and then just for your information, in the Marin County, city of San Anselmo has it also recently developed. By the way, their rate of signature for accepting the petition is 60%. Ours is 50+.
What is on?
We're talking
Mark.
They require 60%.
No, but what do we do? 50?
51.
51.
I have a question when I get a chance.
If the street qualify and meet the speeding threshold, then speed survey data will be analyzed for possible solution to the traffic concern cited in the petition. The solution is I have listed different tools, traffic calming tools. So the solution will be presented to the City Advisory Traffic Committee, which is an internal committee. That's where we have the PD, the fire, parking managers, and planning. So that's where we really discuss and choose which one will fit. And generally, we'll probably have more than one tool for the resident to vote. So who can vote that which tool has to be implemented once they qualify? This is also important because residents who live on that street or the renters, they only can vote, or a cul-de-sac that has to take that street. The reason is you don't want to expand it too much. So people don't live on that street. They are traveling. They are the one that's speeding. So if you make it too big, nothing will qualify because they dilute the vote. People who only live on that street, or they have to take it if they live in a cul-de-sac. That's the only option. But the people have other routes and they're coming from different area, they cannot vote. So that's why we have that side street resident who have the option not to take the street cannot vote. Only one vote per property is allowed, and duplicate postcard vote will be discarded and not counted. And then we have the tenant and property owner issue. So if the tenant and property owner vote the same, we only count one vote, whatever it is. If they vote differently, only the property owners will vote. So once we send the survey and the result comes and the solution is favored, whatever solution options was in the postcard, sometimes obviously there's 2, 3, whatever traffic committee proposes. So once the solution and postcard survey comes, staff will prepare the conceptual traffic calming plan to be presented to the traffic committee. After traffic committee's concern or approval, the concept plan will be presented to BPAC. That's where it will come here. That's all done and everything is voted. Concept plan is here and for your feedback and input at that time. And also the public people who voted or signed the petition, they will all be invited if they want to attend the BPAC meeting. So that's the only public meeting if they qualify. To come and look at the plan. And the idea is because even if you, for example, we install a circle or maybe a speed hump or what you call choker or bubble. The staff and traffic committee, sorry?
I'm sorry, what did you say, choker? You install?
Yeah, it's.
I didn't hear you.
Yeah.
I just.
Choker is like a bulb out that pokes the street at a certain point.
Okay, thank you.
So what happens is people vote and they all agree, but everybody says not in front of my house, correct? So that's the issue. The traffic engineers and fire and police, we will consider where to put them. And then those things are not subject to vote. And then we will present it to BPAC with inviting the public. That's when they see the plan. Otherwise, it will be hard to go anywhere.
Okay.
So the Traffic Advisory Committee will review the final plan and may make recommendation to the staff for its implementation. If traffic calming devices are approved, they will be installed when funding is available. Staff shall strive to implement an approved plan within 12 months of receiving the petition. Special projects or that require larger funding, then it will be depending on approval of funding by City Council. But typically, we try to have yearly funding for traffic calming projects. So what happens after a year? And this is a typical rubber speed hump that's designed for fire trucks where they have gaps, so the fire and the fire truck wheelbase is wider, so they can go through without hitting the speed hump. But cars, they have to slow down, go over it. So after a year of installation, staff may monitor results to assess the effectiveness of specific traffic calming tools, and then a before and after traffic calming speed survey will be compared to the and just the effectiveness of it. And this will help the future installation and adding more traffic calming. So based on this evaluation, the traffic committee may recommend advisory committee modifying or removing traffic calming measures. So if we see there's no effectiveness or some other concerns, then it can be removed. Tools and devices that's used, and in this example, that's kind of the choking the street for crosswalk in the middle of the mid-block. So speed warning sign, those are really things that I mentioned we can do with Cyclifix. Curve warning sign, electronic speed radar sign, that since it's also expensive, it requires, it's a tool that neighborhood has to vote for it. Channelizer and striping, that's another method. Narrow median island, that's when you make a turn and generally people take a really wide and go fast. So if you put a narrow median island, then they have to slow down to make refuge island, which we saw, chokers and bulb outs, chicanes, which is, I think there's a picture. It's really an island on one side and a little bit further, there's another island and then another island. So they're kind of blocking at least give the speeder an impression that they should, narrow street, they should slow down. Lowering the speed limit to 20 miles per hour, if AB 43 is applicable. So some areas it's applicable. Generally in business district, but in some residential street, it also qualify for 20 miles per hour. Especially we mentioned if it's a lot of bicyclists and pedestrian present. Turn restrictions, that's impact a lot of police response, fire response, and obviously can change the route. So those are the things that we obviously need community input. Traffic circles, those two last ones, those are really subject to approval of fire department. Because if it impacts their response time, we don't want that. So, but there are solutions. For example, we installed one at the Spinnaker traffic circle, but it's really just striping and reflectors, so it doesn't impact fire department. So if a street does not qualify for traffic calming, either people didn't sign the petition, or the speed survey showed that they really don't qualify, that speed really based on the survey doesn't exist, then they have to wait for 2 years to apply again. So we don't want them to, if they don't qualify 6 months later, they will apply. The Public Works Director may remove or modify any installed traffic calming measures for public safety reason without additional action. So when it comes safety, the Public Works Director has authority to install it, and it was one of the questions we have, that when it's safety, it shouldn't be subject to vote, but yes, safety issues are very, very different. Residents also may request modification or removal of traffic calming measure as part of a 1-year review process. Following the 1-year review period, residents may follow the voting procedure outlined in the approval. So if you want to remove after a year, they have to do the same thing, submit a petition that we don't want, and people vote for it and they remove. With that, we're open for questions, comment, feedback. This will go to council in June 15. That's scheduled for approval and adopting a resolution.
Okay.
May I make a comment, or is that not appropriate?
Not yet.
Okay.
For committee, then we'll open up for public comment.
You want questions or comments, or both from us?
Let's do questions from the committee first, and then we should probably do comments after public.
Yeah, a clarification question. You say if traffic concerns cannot be resolved simply by adding signs, striping, channelers, et cetera, then you do the petition. So when if someone contacts you and you go out and see it, and you recognize that there's something that can be done, what can you just do before having to trigger all the settings? Because you listed all like signs and striping and channel lighters in your traffic control. I say that in the context of like, I'd like to empower you to just do it. Well, yeah.
In general, any standard signs or other traffic calming tools that we have in terms of signage and striping, that doesn't impact directly people when they drive. It's not an object on the street that we are currently doing, and it falls within the traffic engineer authority based on city municipal code. Gives us a lot of authority in terms of where to put crosswalk, or if you feel it's safe, or red curb, or signage, for example, if there are curb warning signs. Those are all within the traffic, which we do currently. We receive C-click fix, we go to the field, we check, and we talk to the resident that complained, and we install it with our work order. Sometimes if it's a little bit more than just our call, it and involve fire, police, and parking management. We go to traffic committee, and we have a proposal work order, and they kind of, as you review the comment, and then we do the work. But obviously, if you put a speed hump or even a radar sign, which costs $20,000-$30,000, those kind of stuff, choking because you put a bulb out and at intersection or in the mid block, then you have to remove parking. Those kind of stuff, it requires funding and approval, and also neighborhood input. Some of the stuff, even when it's voted, we could probably do it as like rubber. You can remove it easily and you can reuse it. Rubber curbs, like we showed on point, to put a concrete curb and widen the sidewalk, kind of, but it impact drainage and all those things. So the pilot is to just do it like that. So eventually, if it works really well, then when funding is available, you can do a permanent. So same thing with traffic cones.
So those are things that you'll just do without even doing a petition. Like, so a rubber curb you could do without a petition. You would do, like in your example, you say sign striping channelizers.
Yeah.
To me, a channelizer seems fairly significant. Am I thinking about that wrong?
Depends what you're doing with it, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that like a narrowing?
Yeah, there are examples that we have done now on some street with channelizer and rubber curb that we then, and it's a safety measure, and we know we can take it out. We seek input from fire and police, and we install it. But whenever we take parking, then at least, even if it is by law, state law and city municipal code is allowed, we always contact the resident that's in there. So, yeah, we are doing now those kind of stuff. Even on street with the not residential, when it's safety. And for example, we did on Grand and Third Street, we installed channelizers. Blocked one of the lane because it was a left only, but people will just go through.
Yeah, I saw
So
that.
we blocked that, and that didn't require there are property owners there, but not residential. But it was a safety, and fire department was involved, police was involved. So we did that.
Yeah, I think, because I see that you have all of these things on the list here. And I would suggest that it would be good to split them out. It's the things that you have the authority to do without the program and then the others that you, so that I think it would be clearer they would know they don't always have to jump through all those hoops to get some of those things done.
City of San Anselmo and theirs, they have tier 1 and tier 2,
Exactly,
sometimes
yeah.
even tier 3.
I like that idea.
So like
That-
tier 1 will be what you also recommended. Tier 2 will be, they have to vote. Tier 3 is the one that not only they vote, the fire department has the authority to say no.
I think that would be helpful. That's like what my question I think was leading at. It was unclear, like the process seems not undoable, but it's a lot. Like it's a lot to go through the whole process. And I would like city staff, just so you guys know, just do it. For the things that you know. So I like the idea of like empowering you to do more than less. So if you could separate that out, I would like.
And this is what we are currently doing. However,
Yeah.
some residents in residential street, they ask more, they want the other side. And that's why we want the concern, because you have to spend money, vendor, and design, and we need all the community, everybody to be, at least simple majority to be behind it.
I have a question about that. How do how do you count what is a resident? It can't, there's 6 people resident in my house, 4 of them are age 6 or younger, so I don't think we want all of us.
One vote.
Yeah, 1 vote per. How does it work for a multi-unit?
Yeah, for multi-unit, we send a petition to the
Where you could have
property manager,
roommates.
property manager or owner. That's the detail that we could add. And I personally want only the property owner to vote, because renters come and go, especially if it's apartment building.
Right.
I've been in my house for 40
So,
years. renting.
but I think that's where city attorney comes in. We have to get their feedback, because we don't want to cross the line.
Yeah.
That wasn't mine.
Could you go back to that slide where it?
Yeah, we'll want some clarity on that because, that could change the denominator a lot when calculating what's 50% plus 1. Because I'm just thinking of the Canal neighborhood where there's a number of apartment buildings with dozens of units per building. So whether that's 1 or 30, it would likely make all the difference whether a petition meets the threshold.
Based on my experience in other cities, one time we did like owner only, but it backfired. So I think there's some legal issue.
Okay.
So
Well, it's true. Because
clarify it.
if there's an apartment building with 30 units and it's just one owner for all of them, how do they get 30 votes? Or do they get 1? Could you go back? There was a slide there where you talked about the voting process, because this question relates to that. I found this confusing. So it says at the top, it says only residents can vote, but then at the third bullet says if tenants and property owners vote the same. So
yeah.
I'm not sure what.
So residents, say we have a residential street with single family, correct? We're calling it all residents, but some of the, when we check to send mailers or survey, we find that they're the renters, but there's the owner that lives some other city or out of state. So we send, because we are changing the character of.
Oh, okay.
the
So
street, we
when you
send to
say-
both of them.
So that if the tenants and property owners, you mean the tenants and property owners for the same house? Okay,
Same resident.
got it.
Yeah. Well, when we do comments, we'll.
Yeah, okay, another question I had was, in the written draft, it indicates there's a budget each year, a traffic calming fund with $150,000 in it. That can be used until depleted. How far does $150,000 go in general?
So it depends what we do. For example, the material we use, if you use rubber, and also the tool we use. Say if you want to use speed hump, for example, people are mostly interested with striping and everything. They cost each signage 10 to 15,000. So if you install 2 or 3 on a street, because we never install one speed hump, it has to be at least 2. So there goes your $30,000-$40,000. So you can do maybe 3 streets. Also, this is a draft, so it's up to city council, but also the budget amount based on the first year. The first year is like really a try. How much application we get and how successful and how many staff can manage. So those are subject to, funding and change.
Question still, why is only speed and not any other context considered when deciding whether to install it, like collisions, bike routes, safe routes to school, land uses, traffic volume?
Yeah, you mentioned all of them. So we have Safe Route to School program. We have other safety projects. For example, the local roadway safety plan. So those really doesn't include, and one of the concern or question was safety doesn't need both, and those are exactly right. For schools, we have different projects for local roadway safety plan, and then one of the stuff we have is with fatality or severe PD with us, we meet. I look at the report, and those one are the one that we just do it. Those are not really part of traffic. Traffic calming is because some residents say, oh, 1 or 2 that I see cars are driving really fast. Well, then I want a circle or speed hump or this or that, or bulb out, and that's what we want to measure it. Maybe we definitely will check the collision report as part of it, but that comes to safety. This is kind of, we want to check it and see if the concern is valid, and it's not, first of all, it's not one person that has that concern. Majority of people living on that street, that's their concern. Second, we have to measure it, and we are measuring also volume. So we have, I think I mentioned that it's speed and volume. Sometimes you can see a residential street, what is the range of daily traffic volume? And if you see large volume, it's a cut-through area. So you don't want people to not take arterial or local and take.
So I want all those to be taken into account. But as the strict definitions, you wrote these pretty strict definitions on these speed surveys, that speed is what matters. I would like speed and these other things taken into account.
Well, it sounds to me like what you're saying is if there's a collision that triggers staff to go investigate it, so then it doesn't go through this process. It's a separate process, right? If it's a safety issue, because you don't want the neighbors determining how to address the safety issue. Yeah. Those
are and then in my report, I'm mentioning some of the stuff we have done. And none of them is really. We do receive things from C-Click Fix, and that's very good because that's the experience of everyday people who drive. And then we just go in there and validate their concerns. So that's another option. And then we always check safety, and some of those safety improvement also. One project, safety more than 150,000, but again, that's a safety, it's not traffic calm.
I just want to draw attention to this last bullet. It's at the very beginning. So this can be initiated by DPW for corridors that are already part of safe routes. So
It's initiated, but then you'd still do those studies, and then it's like,
Well, that's true. It makes it sounds like it's still part of this
it's
process.
still part of the process. I mean, what we'll hear in comments is I think the 7 miles an hour over is a pretty high bar. I looked comparatively, like I have to look at Davis's policy, which I particularly liked. And they had other criteria, and their bar was when 85% was 3 miles an hour over, that triggered it. And so I think of like a lot of like the narrow mountainous roads, like if we're driving to your road, if someone's going 25 miles on your road, they're a race car,
road, yeah.
you know? And so not that it necessarily needs traffic calming, but then in that situation, no one's driving 32 miles an hour.
No,
on
and the
that
whole road's a
road.
chicane, so.
And you could still be, you know, the safe speed could be significantly under 25 despite them not speeding. And I'd worry we would miss that when it's so dependent on speed only.
Yes, so that's the same thing as I mentioned before. It's what bar you set. Again, those could be adjusted in 2-3 years, depending on what is the outcome. What I mentioned is the general practice in Institute of Transportation Engineer. They have also guidelines for traffic. And there's a reason for 7 miles. But so if you want to do it and most street qualify, you lower the bar and then you have a lot. And if you
And there's
you
capacity
do two-
issues, sure.
you make it too high, then you have none. So at least this one is a start, and maybe in 2-3 years we have more data. And always
That's a good, yeah, that's a long time. I had one final question is, this qualifies on neighborhood residential streets. So, you know, we have our, you know, our main thoroughfares. We also have collectors that are like, is D Street a neighborhood residential street? Is Fifth Avenue down to Sun Valley a neighborhood residential street? Or is Greenfield Avenue a residential street, or are these? Like how do those get categorized on what qualifies as a neighborhood residential street?
So if all the land use is 80%, say, I'm just coming up with residential. For example, if you go to a R1 zone, which is single family residential,
Okay.
those are all residential streets.
So a lot, that's, okay. So all of those then that I named would qualify.
But
as
for
residential
example,
street.
some of the street that's fire route, for example, D Street is, or Fifth Avenue,
Yeah,
they qualify, but you know, the fire department have major concern.
sure.
But some of the street near or the street that connects to Point St. Pedro, all those residential ones there. Those are all residential streets, correct, on the north side. Or in Terralinda, all those streets that's connecting to most of it, and that's connecting to Manuel Freitas, those are all residential, correct?
Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question or two. For measuring the speed, why? So the speed is only being measured between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Is that right?
No, the speed is measured for about hours a day, 24 hours a day for 7 days.
Okay.
But generally, that's the area and people travel a lot and there's a speed. The problem is if you make it, what you mentioned is in Davis, they probably take the average 24 hour, 85%. I'm only looking at 2 hours because the average might not qualify any of them because I'm looking at 2 hours, which is very limited in AM and PM, and that's what's speeded up. The other thing is at night, middle of the night, you might have some issue in some residential street that speed is, but there's only one car that drive every time. Instead of 25, 15. Those are the ones that when we do the survey, we know what time and if it's repeating. So that help us to give PD information that this hour every night is 2 people driving 60 miles per hour. That has happened. And that's give us some hint to also feedback the police department.
Okay, because the way that I read it in the draft, it says if 85% speed is over 7 miles. Well, just for 4 hours of a day, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So at least the way that reads, it sounds to me like it's only looking at those 12 hours. Maybe that's not what you meant.
What I meant is, for example, between 9 and 10, there might be 1 car drive, 2 car drive. The volume is in some street. And that in most residential street, most car travel between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., correct?
So you want higher volumes as well.
Higher volume to see a character, driver behavior and that time.
Okay. Let's see if I have any questions. I guess that's it for questions. I think I'm good.
Okay, well, let's open it up to public comment. And since we may have a fair amount, I think if there are questions, it's better if everyone just states their question and you address them together afterward. And if you have a comment, we'll remind people there's a 2-minute per comment limit. So go ahead.
All right, I will try to speak fast then. I went to a thing with the Santa Fe Police Department probably 6 or 7 years ago. We were in front of the Belly Deli and they were having us guess how fast people were going on 3rd Street. Not one of us got it right, except me, because I actually was working up at the racetrack at the time, so I had an idea. But that's not the point. The point is none of us really had an idea. And then we got to use the gun and going, oh, that's obviously we were wrong. But that's not normal. So do you actually, and you don't have to answer this now, but if you have residents doing that, everybody thinks everybody's going 70 miles an hour no matter what. That's what they come out with. So that's a little bit of a problem. The other thing is right now, there are more trees covering stop signs. And I literally called one of your people because in front of Biomarin was a tree covering a light. And I just called and said, I don't want to be the one killing somebody, but I can't see that light. And thank God they took care of it quite fast. The guy Brown, whatever his name was, his last day of work, he actually cut down one of the branches because I complained about it for 3 years and couldn't get anybody to do anything. And he actually went in and called me and said, I've now cut down the branch. And I was like, oh my God, it was amazing. You could see the light. And nobody thinks like that because none of the people who work there live there. So that to me was the most important. But vegetation is a really big issue right now because I literally was in front of where the Belly Deli was. Is it Belly Deli? Yeah. And it's Arismedes now. And literally a tree was covering the stop sign. And I was like, God, I thought there was a stop sign there. And then as I drove by, I went, oh my God, there is a stop sign here. So that's a big issue that probably needs to get taken care of sort of quickly. And thank you for what you do.
All right, thank you. Other? Okay, well,
I had a question just about if the city now to delineate not a safety concern, but this particular traffic calming. If the city initiates the traffic calming needs, does the petition still occur, or is it something that the city has right to do as a need when it's not a safety concern?
Should I answer that?
Let's go ahead and take all questions. Was that your only question?
That's my only question.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I have a couple of questions. I was wondering if the advisory traffic committee meeting, is that open to the public? That's one question. Another question is in the list of projects, and you have one column that lists the number of collisions. I was wondering what the time period is on that report for those collisions. I also had a question about bicycles. When there's a bikeway on a street, are you going to put traffic calming like humps for the bicyclists to ride over? It's a shared bikeway on a street, a residential street. And then I was wondering about emergency response time. If you're going to provide some guidelines as to how much you can degrade the emergency response time with traffic calming measures, or are you leaving that totally up to the fire and police department to determine if it's too much impacts the emergency response times. That's all.
Okay, well, that's a number of items. We had one more public comment. Go
I
ahead.
do have one on that voting process. I rent in a 8-unit apartment building. The way I read that, if I don't agree with my landlord, I don't get a vote. And if I do agree with my landlord, I don't get a vote. And the other 7 people there don't get a vote. And my landlord, who is not a resident, because he lives in Mill Valley, gets a vote. So it's sort of, and I see that the word resident is used frequently, but that's not really true if I'm a resident and I don't get a vote. And I heard you say that you do these things to get the buy-in of the community. But again, that's not really true if if I'm part of the community and I don't get a vote. And I get what you're saying, that renters come and go, but like even just change the wording so it's all property owners, not residents and community, because it looks like I don't get a vote either way.
Thank you for that. I'm a 40-year renter.
Okay, any other public comments before we close it? Okay,
Maybe I should respond
Thank
reverse because I remember the
Okay.
last one.
all right.
So what is written currently is for single family residents,
Okay,
which to me it makes sense because
I agree. It makes sense.
for renters, that's I think we have to add something for and I have to talk to city attorney. I know that's an issue.
And I hear what you're saying. People come, they vote, and then it's been.
No, it's legally, I think we have to ask that, can we actually
Exclude them.
exclude them, which is, I think you cannot. So
Oh, cannot. Okay.
that's, we have to check that. And we will check it before we go to council.
Okay, thank you.
Or speeding with the radar gun is very different than speeding with tubes. So the tube counts as there for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you're right. And we have tested that with even professional engineers.
It was shocking.
You cannot guess because it's a sports car, it doesn't make noise. Then you have a big truck, it impacts you. So when people call that now or see quick fix, there's really a lot of speed and somebody might get injured. It's really, your perception.
Mhm.
It's not true. And that's why we need to do a objective measuring to see what's the issue. And obviously it's up to council and we take your about the criteria, 85%, but we also can manage those with, variation with experience in the city to see where it's the balance. In terms of traffic committee, it's not open to the public. It's a closed meeting. It's in the city municipal code. It's a meeting between fire, police, public works, and parking management, and also planning. So we can put all our head and talk only about traffic issues.
Are minutes taken or are minutes open to the public? Not.
No, it's not public. It's closed.
But the public meeting would be too, so it would be packed.
The public meeting will be back here. And
How would anybody know that? How would she possibly know that?
That-
That it's through BPAC?
That's what he just said in the presentation.
We're gonna need to let Saeed finish answering the questions. We can't have too much crosstalk here.
what was the last question?
On the traffic calming
I can ask
process.
at the end of these.
Yeah, traffic calming for bicycle, that's a good thing. So usually when we put these traffic calming measures, a bicycle on the road has to follow like a vehicle, all the laws. So as speed hump, for example, extend all the way to the parking, to the bike lane if they're on bike lane. But some of the issues might impact traffic if there are bicycle lane. For example, if you put bulba And that's what you have to design the bulb out such a way that it will not impede.
I'm
Bike
talking
lane.
about a Sharrow, where there's not a dedicated bike lane, but say on Greenfield, where the bicyclists share the
And in
street.
those instances, when we narrow the lane, we either put sign that the bicyclists can take the full lane, or even,
But they have to drive over the humps. If you put speed humps on Greenfield, they'd have to drive over the humps.
the speed limit, especially with the new bicycle, with electric bicycle, everything. The speed limit when there's signed 25 mile per hour or 20 mile per hour, it does apply to vehicles, which include bicycle on the road is considered as vehicle, and they have to follow all the law, stop sign and everything.
I think they were the last question. If the city initiates traffic calming, do you need to go through the petition process?
Currently, the way it's written, yes.
Okay, yeah.
The
Okay,
reason
so-
is because we cannot, if it doesn't fall on safety,
Safety, yeah, separate
then
from
we
safety.
can't do unilaterally. It's initiated by city, but we will send the petition and the survey and everything. So it's the same process.
Okay, so we can take it back to the committee for commentary on the proposals.
I think I would start by saying, I think it would be helpful if you change the name to like neighborhood traffic calming or something that indicates that it's only for neighborhood streets. Because I know we have arterial streets where we have curb extensions and things like, and just so people know that that's not what this is about. So I don't know what the right terminology is, but something to indicate that in the title, so it doesn't talk about these items across the board. I do think defining what streets are eligible would be helpful. And I guess I was also, I had some concerns about I mean, I know you said there's only gonna be a few projects a year probably, but the fact that it's all first come, first served, I guess, just because I think there are certain neighborhoods that are more active, more politically savvy, that are more likely to jump out and get a lot of signatures. And I would just be concerned that certain neighborhoods wouldn't see the same level of benefit. So I don't know if there's some way that it could be more, some assurances that are more geographically distributed, or like limit the number of projects per neighborhood, or look at some other measure about the value of the project. I mean, just some other criteria, Justin, who opens their mouth more. And yeah, I guess I would also echo the question that was raised just about what determines the impact on emergency vehicle access. And I know that varies by community. I've heard, I know in some places they won't do anything that'll reduce because if we're reducing speeds, by definition, that slows emergency vehicle access, right? So I guess are there certain routes that are ineligible, or is it something that has a vertical deflection that's a problem, or what? Just to clarify what that means.
Sorry, that was a question also from you. The best to determine how much is the impact of a speed hump or a circle on the response time. There are surveys, but the opinion between different fire departments are different. So yes, vertical is their concern, curbs is concerned, but some of the things we do, you saw, we also need to test with them. So eventually, it also requires, council, how much they want to, approve things in spite of what fire department think. But fire department will follow whatever councils, but they will express that, speed humps have, for example, 5 seconds. These are, so if you have in around 3-4 speed hump, then it impacts. Traffic circle has is really slow them down, has impact on response time. Yes, we already know some routes that they have already said that, we cannot do anything like speed hump or anything, but, which we regulate our speed sign doesn't impact their speed, correct? If they have to respond and their speed is 35, be it correct, they're for safety. So on D Street and Fifth Avenue, we had a project with speed hump, but they shut it down. So we are saying that we will install, and that's one of the things was done before this, before the traffic calming criteria process. We started on Fifth Avenue and near California, and so we are doing some sidewalk improvement, channelizers, and also we intended to install a couple of speed humps, and currently we are changing it to feedback signs, greater feedback.
So it's that certain devices wouldn't be allowed on certain streets.
Yes.
Right, because I mean, we have curb extensions on Third Street. We have, and those don't affect speeds, so those just.
And that's why we still have the tools, and but we say it's subject to their approval. So some route they say no.
Okay.
Yeah, I have some comments. Okay. Yeah, starting with just saying I'm like genuinely very excited about this program and that it's happening. It's quite needed. And that you have a dedicated funding source for it is awesome. This is like the second time that the city has put like specific money towards doing these improvements. And so I think that's a great start. I frankly have no idea if $150,000 is enough or not enough, but I'm just glad it's something to start. I love that you have an implementation timeline of of the 12 months that you wrote in this policy for that. I think it's a great way to show residents that city government is reactive, that we need that. I like it in the sense that a lot of it is written that you like empower yourselves to make the decisions that need to be made. I would encourage you in the policy to like as much of that as possible, because I do see this. I do see the voting as like it's a barrier to do a speed survey and stuff. And so, whatever you could just do and just get done, I would support. Those are my positive things. I have my sort of negative thing is I see some real equity concerns that I very much would like to get addressed before it's done. So the first equity concern is like a system that depends on petitions and high response rates really favors neighborhoods with more organizational capacity. And so you're requiring 50% of the petitions to be sent back, and then 50% of those have to say yes. I would encourage you to get rid of the response rate and just count the votes as they come in. With such a high response rate, I think a lot of projects would fail by default. And I think that would likely happen in some of the communities that would be most concerned about responding to that. So that's the one thing I would like to see. And then I see the voting structure very problematic if it's actually going to disenfranchise tenants. Like the idea that a property owner would supersede the vote of a tenant generally, I think, is wrong. The tenant is the one who would live there. If I had to choose one, I would choose the tenant who lives there over the property owner. So I just would like it to see occupants, especially in San Rafael, that has these neighborhoods that really mix single family homes with residential housing. Like we're looking out at Gerstle Park, which has tons of apartment buildings sprinkled within these single family homes. And I would like each, I don't know if you do occupant or family, whatever way, to have a representative sample that is not just favoring the single family homeowners around. And to me, I think those are like really real, a policy I love. Those are real concerns that I have. The only other thing that I was going to think of that came to my mind from Barry's comments about, you were sort of like you had sort of an equity concern about like the squeaky wheel, the communities that say more. Again, just this Davis policy, I'm citing the one other policy that I read. But they collected these over a given length of time and then ranked the ones they got in. So if you like collected them every 3 months and then ranked your projects, could be a good way to address that, or 6 months or year or whatever it is. Do that too. Those are my comments.
I mean, overall, I think this is great. I'm very,
Overall, I love it.
very happy that the city's doing this. I think it's just a matter of just tweaking some of the details. I mean, I'm certainly, I'm a renter. I certainly have concerns about that. I also, there might be somebody who owns multiple properties, and so how many votes does that person get versus how many, it's just, it ends up being, there's a lot of streets that probably have mostly renters on them. So none of the people living there will actually be voting. I think maybe some more thought needs to go into how that would work. I guess, and maybe this is just a detail that would get worked out. I'm wondering how the resetting of the speed limits would factor into. I see you have it listed as one of the things on here, and is that the first thing you try to do? Because once you do that, it might eliminate the need for some other things, or I'm not sure what the right order is to try these different strategies. I'm just wondering if you had any thoughts about that.
Yes, the easy one that requires less time. That's was mentioned. That's the best way. That's what we would do. But also the 20 mile per hour is, they have criteria. So not all residential street will qualify.
Right.
If it qualifies, then definitely that's the easy way to do it.
Okay. Yeah. I think this is great. I'm just happy to see it on the city's radar and moving forward. And I think it's going to do a lot for pedestrians and bicyclists.
So, yeah, I echo that. I thank you for putting forward a great draft policy. The lawyer in me gets caught up in things like, the vote counting process. It's also the question of how do you define the relevant stretch of road or street? It could be a 1 block, could be 2, could be 3, and that, obviously then it would impact the feasibility and the, vote tallies of all that. So giving people a clear sense of how the project will be defined and who would be, the relevant stakeholders would be important up front, so that people don't get frustrated and give up, conclude it's impossible, something like that. But so on the whole, I thank you all for this. And I just wanted to note there was also some comments in the written materials, and I think a lot of those have been ventilated through this discussion as well, and I'm sure you'll take those into consideration. So for anyone who's listening, thank you for your comments.
One final thing I was glad to hear you talk about the use of the rubber curbs and the quick bill. I think that's just a really good approach, because number one, it's cheaper and easy to implement, and then you can pull it out easily enough if you want to. So I'm happy to hear that the city wants to do more of that.
All right, do we have a motion to accept the reports? I need to accept the report.
Second.
All right, all in favor? All right. That takes us on to item 2D. We'll still have 2D and 2E. It's 4:08. I don't want to rush these things. Some of these are pretty significant, but so we'll have to do what we can to be streamlined.
Yeah, and just I think two reminders really quick. We do not take public comment. I know there's a question about that. So during this meeting, we do not take public comment at this time. But then also just streamlining conversations with the committee, limiting back and forth as much as possible, getting questions so that we can respond appropriately.
Okay, do what we can there. All right, item 2D.
Right. This one's mine. I am a traffic engineering technician with the Department of Public Works, and I'm also the city's project manager for the citywide bicycle and pedestrian plan update. Excited to be here tonight. I'm very happy that you guys are all here. Thank you for coming out. I'm here along with Jimmy Jessup, who will actually be doing the presentation, but before I hand it off to him, I wanted to give a little bit of context of how we ended up where we are today. in terms of the project. It's been about a year and almost a half since we started this project update. And the project is to update the 2018 Bike and Ped Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan. So what we've done so far, we've collected our existing conditions of what's currently in place for bicycle pedestrian infrastructure. We've conducted 2 rounds of engagement with the public, including yourselves. That also included, I think, 2 full presentations to this committee, and this will be our 3rd. And so through that engagement, we have been able to understand what the community kind of likes, doesn't like, where the issues are in the existing bicycle and pedestrian networks. And through that, we've been able to develop our project list, which is what we're going to be presenting on tonight. And so Jimmy will go through the list a little bit more in detail and show what projects kind of went to the top in terms of like prioritization based on the criteria. And yeah, I just wanted to also underscore that the list that we're showing you tonight is still in draft form. It's not finalized yet based on the feedback that we received tonight and what we go through with the city council during the summer will be taken into consideration before it's finally adopted. And then just also wanted to remind everyone that the website is where you can get the most recent updates on what's going on with the project. Yeah, and then with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Jimmy to start the presentation. And then Jimmy, just let me know whenever you would like me to change the slides.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kelly. Good evening, all. Jimmy Jessup from Parametrics. You know my favorite place to be is in the room with you. Unfortunately, circumstances didn't allow me to tonight, but thanks for having me back. I'll try to make it brief as possible. And again, this is the 3rd presentation on our citywide bicycle and pedestrian plan update. We're nearing the end of the process. If we take a
Jimmy,
look at
can you get closer to your microphone, please?
We're gonna turn the sound up
The
too.
sound is all the way up. We
Oh.
need you to sit closer to your microphone.
I will do so. Apologize. Is this any better?
Little bit, yeah, thanks.
A little bit? Okay. Great. We'll go for it. If we could look at the agenda briefly. Not a lot on the agenda, just a schedule update. We will cover some of what we've attempted to improve in the 2026 version of this plan. And then we'll look at the current status of our prioritized projects and gather input from the committee. The next slide shows a little bit of looking back down memory lane the last year or so on this update. We're now towards the end, but I know that we have engaged BPAC during phase 1, during phase 2. We've talked with the committee about existing conditions. We've gone over the input that we received during phase 1 of engagement. And so this is just kind of a heartwarming slide for me, maybe being involved with this process all steps of the way. On the next slide, I know this isn't visually appealing. There's a lot here and no plan is perfect, but I do want to at least understate some of the improvements that we've made in this 2026 version of the citywide bicycle pedestrian plan. We've tried to elevate the emphasis on pedestrians compared with putting on equal footing with the bicycle emphasis that has always existed in the plan. We've also conducted 2 rounds of engagement as opposed to 1, which had previously been conducted. But we've also expanded the diversity of engagement offerings, flexible scheduling for different events. We've shown up at 6 pop-up events throughout the community. This is the first time we've also offered virtual community meetings in tandem with in-person community meetings. So we've really tried to expand the inclusivity of input that we've received. We've also really taken a close look and made quite some adjustments to the way that we've prioritized our projects. of course, prioritization is really what makes the plan implementable. It's what we think shifts the plan from being a document on the shelf to one that is referenced again and again throughout the upcoming period. And so we've tried to increase that emphasis in how we've scored projects. We've changed the way that we've thought about connectivity and increasing destination points with residences to try to emphasize the weighting that connectivity plays in prioritization. We've also integrated a weight for equity priority communities for the first time in the plan. We've normalized projects for project length. That is, longer projects don't get scored more heavily just because of their length. And then importantly, we've also incorporated a project readiness score that helps to inform not just plans that are great ideas, but to understand the ability for the city to execute on projects and how that informs the way that we think about its overall scoring. We've updated this plan, this medium range plan within the context of other longer range plans that have progressed in the city, in the county. But then we've also provided a planning level cost estimate for the plans that we provide as part of the priority projects here. And again, that helps this be an implementable plan referenced by the city going forward. And last but not least, to not underemphasize, also for the first time, our plan will contain a design guide, which will be part of the plan and align the way we think about the projects with contextual reference to NACDO, MUTCD, Highway Capacity Manual, Highway Design Manual standards for ensuring consistent and effective designs for the city going forward. Okay, so that was a lot. Let's get back into how we're progressing the plan.
Jimmy, we really need you to streamline this a bit. I'm sorry, but we're at hour 2 of this meeting already.
I understand. Yeah.
A little less detail, please.
That sounds good. Thanks. You've seen these goals before. We'll go to the next slide. As a reminder, these goals inform the way that we're thinking about prioritization of projects. Just to highlight, this connectivity is now 45%. And this is also based on round 1 of engagement feedback. Vision 0 or safety related elements has been right sized to 15%. That used to account for about half of project scoring. So that's just a reminder of how we've got to these top prioritized projects. And if you go to the next slide, this visually on a map shows us where our top priority projects are. You'll see it includes a mix of corridor projects, which are more likely to be bicycle related projects, as well as intersection projects. Spot intersection projects are both bicycle, but also largely pedestrian improvements. And so we are looking to offer this as a top priority tier. It's an ambition for the city in the upcoming period. It's not meant to indicate that a certain project comes first in a sequence, but really implementation and its sequencing will depend eventually on various factors for the city in the period going forward. This next slide is just a long list of what these priority projects are, as well as estimated planning level construction costs for them. And again, this is one big tier. We're not meaning to identify any as number 1 or number 20, but they all exist in a top priority tier. So that's the end of the presentation. We're, of course, here towards the end, and as Kelly mentions, this is in draft form. We're looking to finalize this as we go forward into the summer and have the plan adopted by council, and have this plan implementable and a useful resource for the city to reference and affect real change going forward.
Thank you very much. All right, well, let's try and take our questions first and then reserve commentary for after the public portion. Go ahead, Phil.
Hi, Jimmy, it's Phil. You mentioned that the connectivity was weighted at 45%. Prior to this meeting, we were given a big list of projects and rankings and numbers between each of them, so like, and each one has a little number. I made a little spreadsheet to organize them to find these top projects. Like I see network completeness, which I would say is connectivity, is 10 points out of a total of, 80 or 100 or whatever it could be. Am I looking at the right thing for this list of projects that we looked at?
That's the right one. Yep.
So how do you get the 45% based on connectivity?
It's
These
totaled up.
Okay, all of those.
Right. The total
And
of
then
population, equity, priority communities, destinations, and network completeness comes to 45.
And then when you're giving these, scores, lots. So for network completeness, it's like 0, 5, and 10 are the different scores. But I look at a handful of the projects, like for example, projects in the downtown east-west connection, which I would say is like very high on connectivity. We don't have a way to get east-west through town. And they have a low network completeness score of like a 5. How's the best way to give you some feedback of like various projects that I don't understand the scoring to, or that I think the scoring should potentially change? Like, for example, some of the Albert Park related paths have pretty low scores, and yet we just gave 70 or 80 million dollars for a new library there. That's going to completely and totally change that area within the scope of this plan. What's the best way to get feedback like that to you and the project team?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. I think the answer to your question lies within a long list of definitions and scoring metrics against each one of these criteria. We've worked those out in concert with the city, but the city might be able to provide that in terms of gives numerical values for meeting criteria and then assigning those for each project. For network completeness, as an example, we're looking at assigning different scores for if it addresses a specific gap on both a citywide network and then another 5 points for addressing a gap on a regional network, as an example. And so each project would be looked at, specifically for addressing gaps under that network completeness item.
So what should I do if I think some of those scores have missed important things? Like a downtown east-west connection, or, an east-west connection through San Rafael, which has been on every plan for 20-something odd years. As, we're trying to go north-south and east-west, and these east-west ones are ranking low for connectivity across the board. But I would say that's like a San Rafael plan in all our previous plans, and that's a countywide plan also. I mean, is that emails that you would like, Kelly, or Jimmy would like? Or I say this in the context of, we also got a really long document from WTB TAM that was very detailed, and I have not been able to compare all their stuff, but it seems like a lot of that feedback is likely going to be important to incorporate.
So in the interest of where we are, I think staff is looking at what WTB TAM sent and seeing and working with Jimmy on implementation or what the questions could be. So if that is best found for you in an email to us, we can still give that same consideration. But like Jimmy said, there's definitions. That's how it was assigned. But we can, with that.
Sure. Thank you.
Other questions?
Other questions from the committee? No, none from me. Okay, well, why don't we give public opportunity to ask questions and comments, and again, we'll collect them all and have those addressed together. Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment, take it back to the committee for comments, questions, discussion.
I don't think I have anything specific. I mean, it's just, there's a lot to digest.
Yeah.
And I was going through it a little bit earlier, but yeah, it's you know, just there's a lot that could go. I mean, I think it sounds the framework makes sense. You know, the way it's broken down, you know, makes sense to me. You know, there's certainly in general, when I see what's rising to the top, it makes sense. So I think, you know, like Phil said, there may be certain things that require some tweaking, but it seems to me like it's on the right track.
Yes, I concur with that. I thank you for all the work you've done to select the projects and the public input. And, you know, I had a similar impression reviewing these. I can't say I've had a chance to really digest them all. And I'm glad to hear that the detailed feedback from, you know, different groups and comments will be considered as this gets weighted. Will this come to the committee one last time, or is this our final?
We can come back to the committee in June since we plan on presenting to city council later in the summer.
Okay.
I think it's whether you all are interested in that coming back as an item.
I am.
I think it makes sense. Yeah.
Out of the loop through this whole, like, I still don't know what the text of it is. And like, you know, I still feel like I would have expected we would have a subcommittee to really review the whole thing. We haven't done that. So I would like to have that. So
We have another external internal review. This is our first draft, admin draft, then we still have our second admin draft, which is then going to be sent to like transit, county, other areas in the city, and that will include the same members of BPAC that it did during the earlier stages.
Okay, yeah, the Phil's comment, an actual draft and an actual plan would probably be worth reading, because the spreadsheet has good information, but I think without the context of the broader plan, it's really hard to figure out what's happening, so, yeah. So, okay, great. That's good to know. Okay. That's good. Sure. Just kidding.
That's great. And thanks for your input. I know a lot of WTVTAM's comments would also have been recognized if they were read in context with the plan itself. So I like that idea. Yep.
Great. Okay. Hearing nothing further, should we have a motion to receive the report?
So moved.
All right, I'll second. All in favor? All right, thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you.
All right, let's see, that takes us to 2E. West End neighborhood traffic upgrades.
Yeah, don't go far, Jimmy.
Okay.
So just some context. So the city hired parametrics and Jimmy and his team to analyze and provide potential improvements for roadways between 2nd Street, Greenfield, and East Street. Jimmy's is going to give draft recommendations for those specific intersections, and Jackson too, I believe. Okay. So I'll let them take it away.
Sure. Thanks, Gray. Yeah, so hi, my name is Jackson, engineer from Parametrics, working with the city and with my colleague Jimmy to perform the study of intersections near the 2nd and 4th Street intersection. So let's jump into it. Yeah, so this project came about as the city determined that there were some important intersections in the area with several safety challenges, given the mix of street types, the convergence of multiple modes, including the two-way cycle track on 2nd Street, and also some uncontrolled movements. And so in addition to that, there's a project at 2nd and 4th that will close the westbound left turn lane onto Marquard Avenue, that's shown in the brown circle. And instead, left turns are rerouted onto nearby streets that can access the same destinations shown in the teal circles. So the second and fourth project provided sort of an additional impetus for investigating safety and rerouted volumes. And so this study considered any potential circulation and safety improvements opportunities at the nearby intersections that expected to take on this additional rerouted traffic. And in this presentation, we'll look at two specific intersections that include the most substantial physical improvements in our list of recommendations. Next slide, please. All right, so the first intersection is 4th and Greenfield. And so the diagram on the right shows the existing vehicle volumes in the AM peak hour and also the volumes in the PM peak hour in parentheses. And so if we just focus on the AM, currently there are a combined 62 vehicles that use that left turn pocket that combines both the left turn movement and the U-turn movement as well. And with the project, it's anticipated to increase by 22 vehicles. And this represents around a 30% increase in volumes. And similarly, in the PM peak hour, the additional increase is around 40%. And so with this increase, one question that we explored was whether the left turn pocket was long enough to take on this additional volume. We ran some traffic analysis and tinkered with the signal timing a bit and found that if we just prioritize the westbound left turn movement and give it more green time in the cycle, then the pocket length seemed to be sufficient according to our analysis. And the prioritization of the westbound left with slightly increased delay for the eastbound through movement, I want to note, but not substantially. And we also had improvement ideas for the area that's immediately south of the 4th and Greenfield intersection. That's receiving this additional traffic, which I will go into in the next slide. And so this slide shows just our draft concept of the area that we show in our draft report to the city, and we'll zoom in to look at some specific items. And so, the main thing that we noticed was just how much open space there was available in this area. And so our design really focused on tidying up this space to reduce the street width, to clarify the vehicle movements, and to shorten pedestrian crossings. And so several ideas that we had were stripe medians to reduce the street width, adding in markings to keep the intersection clear of vehicles, painting bulb outs in several locations with curb and delineators, and wanted to note that this design that you're seeing assumes the removal of 2 parking spaces that's on the right corner, right after Greenfield and West End Avenue. And we verified our design with turning templates and made sure that it works with fire trucks making all turning movements when we are drawing out these concepts. So the second intersection I want to highlight is the 2nd and West intersection. And so once again, the diagram on the right shows the existing and additional left turn volumes. We're seeing 6 vehicles during the AM peak hour, and that's expected to go up 4 with the rerouted traffic, and 9 in the PM existing, and additional 5 with rerouted traffic. So once again, this slide shows another sheet of our concepts in our report, and we'll zoom into the 2nd and West intersection. And so at 2nd and West, the main issue that we saw was the westbound left turn drivers on 2nd making an uncontrolled movement across what is an existing 2-way cycle track and a crosswalk.
Jackson, we keep losing you, and I don't know if it's us or you.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I will just keep speaking, but let me know if that happens again. So at 2nd and West, the main issue was, once again, that left turn movement across an uncontrolled movement across the cycle track and the crosswalk. And so the highlights of our design really focus on slowing down these vehicle turns and increasing awareness of the cycle track and crosswalk. And we do that through a hardened center line with curb and delineators, an array of 3 mountable bumps on both the inbound and outbound side of West Street to slow vehicle movements across the bike and pedestrian facilities. And these are 2 inches tall, 6 feet wide, and spaced at 2 feet apart to allow for fire access still. And some other designs that we had were a series of signs just pointing at drivers that are entering and exiting West Street for additional visibility of the crosswalk and the cycle track. Removal of a parking spot that would allow for improved access for entering and exiting vehicles to pass each other, and improve visibility of crossing bikes and pedestrians. And then finally, clarifying the what is intended to be the restriction of parking at the corner of 2nd and West in those hatched areas that you see. So that is an existing no parking, but it's not striped that way currently. It's not obvious, at least in the striping currently. All right, so that concludes the highlights of our proposed design. And so once again, we just reviewed 2 intersections that include the most substantial physical improvements in our report. And as mentioned, there's a draft memo that we submitted to the city that includes our complete list of recommendations at all of the 6 intersections that we studied. And the memo also includes all the concept plans that we showed briefly on the screen today. And so thank you. That's the end of the presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, well, let's first do questions from the committee.
I guess the only question I had, I thought that idea of the mountable bump was interesting. I haven't seen that before. Do you have any other examples where that's been used, and has that been evaluated at all? I think it's an interesting idea.
Yeah, that idea actually came from the NACTO. I believe it's the Urban Street Design Guide. Yeah, it was sort of shown there as a way for improving uncontrolled left turn and right turn movements across cycle track. So actually in NACTO they had it as across a crosswalk, but in our case we have the cycle track and the crosswalk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No questions from me. Bill? No? Okay, well, let's see if there's any public questions or comments.
Go ahead, sir. Okay, I just was wondering if the parametrics analysis agrees with Kimley Horn analysis that said in April that there would be 100 additional vehicles that would use the 2nd and West access and 200 additional vehicles using the 4th and Greenfield access, because they projected 300 vehicles currently use that left turn lane from 2nd Street to Marquardt. So they divided it 100 going to 2nd and West and 200 going to 4th and Greenfield. You were talking about, I don't know, morning, evening. I just wondered if your numbers agree with their numbers. That's one question. Should I?
Yeah, why don't you hit all your questions? Yeah, go ahead.
And then, yeah, I don't like those bumps. I don't think we need bumps on West Street at 2nd. I think there's so much going on there. When I drive down West to turn on to 2nd, I'm not going that fast. I don't need bumps there. And the same thing turning from 2nd on to West. There's so much going on there that you have to look out for. The oncoming traffic, the crosswalk, the bicyclists. I don't think you need bumps there. And the street, West Street, is an uphill street. It's fairly steep. So I don't see the reason for the bumps. And then the other thing was that I put on the list that I'm Victoria DeWitt. I wrote the letter that I submitted today. And I talked to you, Gray, about issues that were going to be addressed. And I attached that photo of the car slipping off the road on Marquardt at Fremont. And I understood from you in previous communication that that would be addressed by parametrics, that intersection of Fremont and Marquardt, because if you have 100 additional cars coming up that direction, there's a hairpin turn from Marquardt to Fremont. The only access to Fremont is from Marquardt. And if you're taking the access from Marquardt and Second and now moving it to Second and West, the only way then to access Fremont from that direction is to make that hairpin turn from Marquardt to Fremont.
Ma'am, you're a little over 2 minutes now.
I'm sorry.
So, yeah.
Okay, well, that was
Appreciate that.
really it. Okay.
Okay.
I would like to go and just say that it seems like my community had come forward in this kind of difficult process and seeking community feedback where we've honestly felt unheard and don't have representation for it because our representative lives too close to the intersection. It seems like we're solving problems around the problems that we've raised. As she's pointing out, some of those problems are going unaddressed, which is particularly the path to make it to Fremont is not doable by most cars. I did see a temporary camera get set up briefly last year that seemed like it might have been a traffic counting camera or something to that effect. It was there for like 2 days, and a giant core truck with a tree removal crane came up next to it. I don't know if it was the city's camera, but it was set up. It was a temporary battery operated system. But either way, it illustrated the fact that we have a lot of needs for this community, for the access of this community, and the safety of the residents as we commute to downtown via our bicycles and walking. I have an art studio. I'm a commercial property owner in downtown, a little over a quarter mile away from where I live. I cross through that intersection. All of these things need to be serving the community as best as they can. And I still don't see plans that are actually solving some of the problems that we have. I still see people driving down West End Avenue, using it as a cut around for the light at 4th Street. I see them having to merge onto 2nd Street, looking over their shoulder while bicycle traffic's oncoming. I see pedestrians still needing to get caught in the middle of the road on 2nd Street while traffic passes them on either side while they wait for their turn to cross. I see a number of problems that we've seen no addressing for. And this is like when we originally heard of these problems or this plan, we were told that
That's 2 minutes.
really quick. I'm just going to add an any Vince not
Please
on.
conclude.
We were told that only a certain distance away from this intersection could be considered. And here we are now considering things much further away. And so we're not seeing these issues that the community has brought as feedback addressed in any way back to the community. And the last thing I will add, which can also be off the record, BPAC meetings would be wonderful to get ahead of.
This is not.
That's
look,
fine.
Look,
that's fine. I'll save it for the end.
We got to keep
I'll save it
ourselves
for
on
the
time.
end. Yeah.
Okay, so I think there was a question about traffic count
I have,
numbers. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't see your hand.
No worries. Two comments. One is I also noted the discrepancy between the traffic reports. This report is saying that there's only 9 extra vehicles a day going up 2nd and West, that's incorrect. The previous traffic report put that at over 100 vehicles a day. That might be a little high, but it's definitely at least in the middle of that. And then secondly, the suggestion about adding mountable bumps, I also want to register. That's a terrible idea. If you're making that left turn from 2nd onto West, you are already trying to now navigate 2 lanes of traffic, a 2-way bike lane, a crosswalk, and you've now removed the safety of the controlled movement with a signal turn. So now you have residents that are used to making a left-hand turn at Marquardt with a signal are now nervous about having to do that without any safety. And they're going to be concerned about making this left turn up the hill to add now a mountable bump that they're unused to as another barrier that they're trying. I mean, this is already, you're creating an unsafe situation from one that is currently safe. So I just really suggest that you really reconsider this. Someone is going to get killed at this new intersection because of the traffic that you are sending up this hill.
Okay, I believe, thank you, that concludes public comments. Okay, so I don't know who's best positioned to address the question of traffic count.
Yeah, we'll jump around for
Projections.
this. So parametrics, I'm going to throw to you first on the question of your analysis agreeing or disagreeing, whatever it is, with the distribution from the previous traffic Kimley Horn traffic report.
Right, yeah. Thank you for the question. And yeah, I can provide some clarification on that. So the Kimley Horn report showed the full day worth of traffic counts, and our analysis is focused on the peak hour. So yeah, want to highlight in this slide, we're showing the AM peak hour, so and the PM peak hour. So the highest traffic volumes in 1 hour in the AM and 1 hour in the PM. And so the reason why we do this in traffic analysis is it sort of simplifies our analysis to just 1 hour in the day that all the traffic is sort of leading into that intersection. And we're able to see like the worst sort of queues, delay experience at that intersection during that 1 hour. It's correct that the volumes that you saw from the Kimley Horn report were much higher, but that was spread across the entire day. And so the most concentrated sort of vehicle volumes have been modeled in our use of the AM and the PM peak hour in our report. And I also want to highlight that in the Kimley Horn report, they also have a table showing the AM and the peak hour, PM peak hour volume count as well. And this is accessible through the city's website on the 2nd and 4th Street project. And the counts that we used were dated on September 10th, 2024. And these were the highest AM and PM peak hour counts for that day that was from Kimley Horn's traffic count. So yeah, that's sort of the discrepancy that you're seeing there.
Yeah, so the parametric analysis does generally agree with the distribution from Kimley Horn. Just the difference that you might be seeing, the distribution is a full 24-hour period, 300, 100, 200 split versus 6 within an hour plus an additional 4 within that same hour. So that's the discrepancy there. There was a question about the traffic count cameras, which I'm also going to throw to parametrics. Parametrics, were we conducting specific traffic counts at intersections? And if so, can you remind me which ones?
We conducted traffic counts at 2nd and East, at 4th and Greenfield, 4th and Greenfield and West End, and at West End, Marquard and Fremont. These were conducted last fall, November.
So yes, question about Fremont and Marquard. Fremont and Marquard is included in the study. The intersection is under consideration by parametrics. It's just not one that was focused on during the presentation. So those draft recommendations from parametrics.
Can they comment on it? Now?
I mean, we don't have a
That's beyond the scope of our presentation, so I think that's a separate question.
That's the questions that I had.
Okay.
Are the materials online for the Marquard and Fremont intersection?
The final report will be available online. Yep.
So it's not completed yet? The
No,
final
still, this is
report?
draft recommendations.
Okay. Committee discussion.
Yeah, I know we didn't want to keep it quick. We didn't hear the traffic counts on East Street, just as I'm looking at that map. It seems like a lot of the comments I heard were concerns about the uncontrolled intersection at West Street. To me, it looks like you have an East Street controlled intersection and a Greenfield controlled intersection. And so they had safety concerns with the mountable barriers. Have you considered closing that left turn lane to alleviate those safety concerns if everyone thinks it's too dangerous to drive across 2 lanes of traffic in a dual bikeway? Because you could then go on a controlled intersection 1 block to the side.
Is that a question or a
No.
comment?
I mean, that's a question. Is that a thing that people are considering?
We don't
You
want to
can't
close.
use
No.
thoroughly.
This isn't, sorry, folks, we can't have public crosstalk. This is a question from the commissioner to the presenter.
Not currently part of this.
So we didn't get an East Street count. So, okay.
The city has a MyoVision camera at
Okay.
East Street, I believe, which I think was provided.
Because those counts are really low. Those are really low peak hour counts. So like this 10.
Yeah, the consideration of closing west, the left turn to west is not part of the scope.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know that I have a lot to say because a lot of this is traffic and that's not really the purview of this committee. We're not the traffic management committee. We're the bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee. So from the way I see it, our first and foremost, we're concerned about the impacts on pedestrians and bicyclists. Not to say the concerns raised aren't valid. It's just, that's not really what we're well equipped to do here. So I don't want to diminish anybody's statements. From the focus on pedestrians and bicyclists, personally, I think the raised, whatever it's called, bump when turning left from West Street is, I like that. Some pedestrians coming from either direction. I'm hopeful, and maybe, I don't know if this merits comment, since that west left turn is immediately cars coming from the west in an eastbound direction. I mean, I assume they'll be held up at the intersection of 2nd, 4th, and 4th for that signal there. And that will give them a fairly, open window to make that left turn and do so safely, taking into account anyone cycling and riding by. And if you're talking peak traffic of 15 an hour, that's 1 car every 4 minutes. So to me, that doesn't seem like an undue volume to cross and to cross safely, given that, that there'll probably be at least a minute between, cycles when there's a red phase on the eastbound traffic and nobody in theory should be coming down 2nd Street. I mean, tell me if I'm oversimplifying that or misunderstanding how the movements would work.
There's a merge lane there.
So there's the traffic control at 2nd and 4th.
Yeah.
The pedestrian improvement there and the crosswalk, so it will create a gap.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
in the gap, you for a safe traffic will stop for pedestrian.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was thinking. Other thoughts?
All good points.
Yeah, I think that he made some good points. I don't have anything to add or additional comments.
Okay. Then do we have a motion to accept the report?
So moved.
All right, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your written and oral comments on this. I know it's an issue of a lot of community concern.
Text really quick.
No. We're not
on
doing.
West Street is at the
we-
same
we've
time as
closed.
Greenfield.
You are
That's-
using the public comment privilege.
Fine.
Let's turn to, do we have a staff liaison report tonight?
Quickly, just to report that I think we are doing without lots of advertisement, the left turn when it's permissive, it's in conflict with pedestrian. And this was at the intersection of Manuel Ritas and Las Galinas. So there was a conflict, even making left turn from Las Galinas, crossing the crosswalk, which is a long crosswalk, and it's school crosswalk. And the other condition was at Civic Center Drive in North San Pedro. One Direction had protected the left turn, but from Civic Center, the left turn was going at the same time when pedestrian was crossed. Good catch. And then another one is at Point St. Pedro on Loch Lomond and Lachenwa. So these ones are the one that had left turn and the signal could be modified. So we did all three of them with the DC Electric, modified the signal that's running. We have gotten positive feedback because now it's protected. So the left turn and pedestrian, left turn goes, and then pedestrian goes with the true movement with enough time at all three of them. The other one is on Lincoln, and we have two RRFB. It's currently under construction at Brookdale and Wilson. So that's doing the crosswalk and doing some rubber curb walk and high visibility crosswalk both at Wilson and Brookdale. The other project that we just moved to phase 2 is Embarcadero one way. We tested a one-way direction, and now we are testing the opposite. So we are gathering data, and then we are going to finalize the report and go to council with recommendation, which will be one direction and any of these two we tested, or other options such as completely closing it or taking it back to two-way, which I don't think that's will be done. But anyway, those are in progress. So we are starting just the feedback and these two of them. Anything that I left?
Yeah, real. Is going to pursue two applications. One we're actually going to work with TAM on for the Manuel T. Freitas multi-use path. So that's along the north edge of MTF from, I'm going to get the streets wrong, it's up there. And then the second one is actually the South Marydale Civic Center connector pathway. We need a better name. The one that goes from the end of Marydale underneath the freeway and connects up with Civic Center Drive. So city staff is going to work on the South Marydale one with our design consultant, and then TAM is actually going to help us out with the MTF one. So that will come back to this committee when we get closer to submittal.
Question on the Manuel Freitas pathway as you go. The end, do you remember we had like a huge neighborhood contingent for that like little pocket park they did on Manuel Freitas? Is this path going to go all the way to that? And could it provide I don't remember which road that was. Could it provide a final solution for that community that was so advocating for that park?
So just so I get it.
Is this the slip lane at Las
Slip lane.
Yeah.
Maybe, I think so.
I think it goes all the way to Montecito. So I think it.
It must have been that slip lane.
Was it
Montecito?
Montecito, yeah.
So if there was a path that
Oh, yeah, there it is.
it could solve their
Barrier.
Yeah.
potentially. That would be
And I will say that we have some scouts who are doing some improvements out there as well. So if you see them, they do have permission.
The idea is to do the path on the north side of that?
It is just, the multi-use is just proposed along the north edge.
Okay.
It would be great if it could solve all that.
Does that reduce the number of travel lanes?
No, because the sidewalk is off the roadway. So, yeah, so there's a bike lane in MTF, and then the sidewalk itself is like 10, 15 feet away. So, yeah.
Phil, I can show you the drafts from the TAM BPAC.
Oh, I see.
There's a whole bunch of different drafts.
My Montecito, not so much,
Yeah.
but the other part, yeah.
But that's all I had for staff liaison.
Interesting.
Great. Okay, that takes us then to commissioner reports. Any reports on meetings, conference, seminars attended by the committee members? Not from me. All right, we are into open time for public expression. This is for matters not on the agenda, and comments are limited to 2 minutes.
I got one. It would be great if there was information about BPAC meetings for the communities that are involved. Like the community outreach for your projects happens prior to BPAC meetings, since BPAC is a common public forum. In our case, a meeting for BPAC happened before the community was aware of the project, or at least the meeting at BPAC. And those kinds of things, to be earnest about community involvement, we should be getting some notification of these opportunities to learn and be better educated, and also provide feedback for our own expertise in our own communities. And if I have a minute, I'll really quickly say the left turn on West happened, the West End Ave frontage roads, green light happens when the red light's happening for Second Street. So there is no red light opportunity for a left turn onto West Street. That's all I was trying to get at. There's always someone coming. The traffic count is low because we avoid that. And the striping removal of the parking would be fantastic, because it is really scary to not be able to see clearly bicyclists and pedestrians coming through there. So the visibility is definitely a problem. Thank you. That's all.
Okay. All right. Thank you everyone for coming. I think that then concludes our meeting. Our next regularly scheduled meeting will be held on Wednesday, June 10th at 6 p.m. With that, we are adjourned. It is 8:35. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
I think that's